We'll kick off with the infamous case of Wayne Couzens.
At the moment you're under arrest, okay? After speaking of kidnapping at this time. Okay, so you didn't have to say anything, but no harm in your defence. You did not mention one question, something later on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
Wayne Couzens was a Metropolitan police officer who, on the 3rd of March 2021, down in Clapham, South London, stopped a random woman on the street whose name was Sarah Everard and who was a 33-year-old marketing executive, falsely told her that she was in breach of lockdown restrictions because this was in the time of COVID and that because of that he was arresting her. What he actually did was to drive her all the way down to Kent, grape her and then strangle her to death with his police belt. Only 5 days later though, the police were at his home, placing him under arrest and interrogating him in relation to the abduction of Sarah Everard. Because Couzens was so wholly unprepared for being caught, he came up with the most ridiculous explanation of why he had kidnapped Sarah. He reckons that he was pressurised into doing it by a gang that he owed money to. They told him that it was either get them a girl or have him and his family killed, and that he just felt he had no choice. Here is a brief clip of the stupid story that I've just said that he told the police.
Well, I am in financial shit, and I've been lent on by, I don't know who they are. They're a group, a gang, whatever, and they told me, right, I need to go and pick up girls and give them to them. There's a couple of names. I was told a place to take her. That's it. That is all I know.
There was a subsequent inquiry into the behaviour of Wayne Couzens during his career as a police officer, and it was concluded that there were so many missed opportunities to disrupt and halt the man's offending. He did things like flashing on a number of occasions. He was addicted to extreme pornography and tried to get his colleagues to watch it with him. He had a warning at one point for being excessively violent during an arrest. He went missing at one point. He was in loads and loads of debt, and when that happens, a police officer can be kicked out of the force because having money problems makes them more susceptible to bribery and corruption. Couzens got his whole life order in 2021. His appeal against that sentence that came in 2022 was swiftly dismissed.
Couzens seeks leave to appeal against sentence. In his case, we grant leave to appeal against sentence but dismiss the appeal.
Sorry, but we're not done with cases of a public servant who occupies a position of trust, but who betrays that trust with an act of murder, because we're now on the case of killer nurse Lucy Letby.
Yeah, not a problem.
I'm going to put you in the back seat over here.
Hold on, man, to
Yes.
get the seat up.
Okay, just take a seat in there for me, Lucy. I'll move that seat forward a bit. Shortly.
Yeah, I just had knee surgery. So.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, Lucy Letby was arrested on suspicion of the murders of, brace yourself, newborn babies in her role as neonatal nurse at the Countess of Chester Hospital up in Chester, North England. She denied the allegations, of course.
They told me that there had been a lot more deaths and that I'd been linked to somebody that was there for a lot of them.
Did you have any concerns that there was a rise in the mortality rate?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about that. What concerns did you have?
I think we'd all just noticed as a team in general, the nursing staff, that this was a rise compared to previous years.
But just who is Lucy Letby? Everyone always talks about how normal Lucy Letby seemed to everyone. She had a good circle of friends, a great social life, went on holidays with her colleagues. At work, people liked her well enough. She had a bit of a fling with a married doctor. She murdered babies and attempted to murder them by injecting insulin and air into their bloodstream. Lucy Letby's murder trial lasted nearly a year. It finished in summer 2023 and Letby got 14 whole life orders, 7 for her 7 murder convictions and the other 7 for her 7 attempted murder convictions. And then in 2024, following a retrial relating to an 8th charge of attempted murder, she was convicted and received her 15th whole life order. The woman's 7 murder convictions make the woman, as at the time of this recording, the UK's most prolific serial killer of children. The woman is also one of the only 3 women in the UK doing a whole life order, the other 80 whole lifers of course being men. And of the remaining 2 women whole lifers, I'm about to introduce you to one of them. That story is coming right up. There are lots of people who say that Lucy Letby is a scapegoat. The deaths of those newborn babies, who I think were all premature, were due to clinical errors of other people. She keeps appealing. Her story, I think, will continue to unravel for many years to come.
Hello. Morning. David, it's the police. Hello. We need to come and speak to you. Oh, yes.
In case you're wondering, with the cases of Lucy Letby and Wayne Couzens, you haven't yet seen humanity at its absolute worst. Presenting hospital maintenance worker, husband, father of 4, burglar, PDF file, rapist and double murderer, David Fuller.
David, you're under arrest on suspicion of the murders of Wendy Nell and Caroline Pierce in 1987. Do you understand? You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned.
This December 2020 arrest of David Fuller, who was born in 1954 and comes from Kent, southeast England, was no less than 33 years in the making. The man's murder of 25-year-old Wendy Nell having come in June 1987, while his murder of 20-year-old Caroline Pierce came in November 1987. Taking place in Tunbridge Wells, Kent. Owing to the sort of place where each of the 2 victims lived, the 2 murders became known as the bedsit murders. The acts of rape that Fuller was found to have perpetrated against both Wendy and Caroline most likely came after the 2 women died, which prefigures, if you like, the hobby that the man rapidly developed in his many years as a maintenance engineer at 2 Kent hospitals. Of the 102 corpses, all female of course, that Fuller raped and essayed in the CCTV lacking mortuaries of the 2 said hospitals, the youngest was but 9, while the oldest was 100. In the videos that the perpetrator made of these disgusting acts of his, he's seen placing his thing, let's say, inside the mouths, the A bleep USES and the VA bleep INAS of these bodies. I am disguising certain words because of YouTube's decency policies. The man also used his tongue and fingers in his acts, graping and essaying some of the corpses repeatedly over a number of days. In the raid of Fuller's home, police found numerous images downloaded from the internet showing women and girls who'd been raped and or murdered. They also found no fewer than 4 million indecent images of you-know-what sort of people. As for the man's career as a burglar, this unravelled between 1973 and 1976, the man gaining dozens of convictions for that offence in that period. In December 2021, after his trial was cut short when he changed his plea to the charges of murder relating to Wendy Nell and Caroline Pierce from not guilty to guilty, Fuller got a whole life order. The 2 murders were, of course, the lead offences, but the man was also sentenced at this point for his mortuary-based hobby and for downloading indecent images of you-know-who. In November 2022, though, the man pleaded guilty to and was sentenced for a further 16 counts of necrophilia. As you can see, though, at this point, the man had nothing whatsoever to lose.
Looks good.
Thanks, Matt. That makes me feel so good. Real sexy.
This woman has just been arrested on suspicion of 3 murders and 2 attempted murders, and yet she's laughing and flirting with police officers, acting as if she's just been arrested for something like stealing a charger.
Not a t-shirt, it's a tent.
Joanne, signature from you that we've got your property.
Right, so one right for attempted murder and murder.
You've been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and murder.
Attempted murder and murder, something. So going down for Sunday Rose. Excuse me.
This is, of course, the second of the 2 women whole lifers that I'm presenting to you, and 2, as I say, of the only 3 women doing a whole life order in the UK. This woman's story will leave you flabbergasted. The 3 men that Joanna Dennehy murdered in March 2013 were none other than her friends, her sexual partners to be exact. When she was little, Joanna Dennehy was a very kind, caring, sensitive girl, very close to her sister. She was a very academically gifted pupil who had aspirations of becoming a lawyer, until one day in her teens, for reasons that people just can't explain, she changed. She got into drugs, she got into drink, she got into sex. She ran off with a bloke who was a lot older than her that she came onto, had a couple of babies with him. Then that relationship broke down. She went to prison, came out, got in with some really, really dodgy characters, and then in March 2013 killed 3 people and tried to kill another 2. She said that the reason she did it is because she wanted to see if she was as evil and as cold-hearted as she thought she was, and that after she killed the first person, she had to keep going. It was moreish and she couldn't get enough. She was convicted in 2014 along with the 3 men, her so-called undertakers that had helped her, in particular by getting rid of the bodies. And in fact, Joanna Dennehy's killings were known as the Peterborough ditch murders because they dumped the bodies in a ditch out in Peterborough in Cambridgeshire. The 3 accomplices were given finite terms, and I think at least one of them has since been released. Dennehy herself got her whole life order in 2014.
You're just going to be searched, mate. You're not under arrest. I just need to search you.
When police stopped
We've had the case of Wayne Couzens, a police officer turned murderer. Now we've got the case of Louis de Zoysa.
At 13, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. His lawyer argued the shooting was a result of an autistic meltdown.
When, on the 25th of September 2020, down in Croydon, South London, police stopped, searched and arrested 23-year-old data analyst Louis de Zoysa, they found that the man was carrying 7 bullets plus some cannabis. There was one other important thing that the man was carrying, though, that the police somehow missed.
Stand up, mate.
He's been a bit.
Go on.
Not understand.
I think this is it.
I understand. Stand up.
So please leave.
What?
Please leave. I think I'm going to pass on.
Okay, listen to me. My name's Matt. I'm the custody officer. I'm in charge. I'm not involved in the investigation. You've been arrested on suspicion of possession of bullets, ammunition, and possession of intent to supply.
Class B.
Class B. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Your detention's not been authorised yet, but I can authorise a search of you under Section 54 of PACE. Stand up. Mate, you're good enough to.
The 2 shots with which de Zoysa murdered Sergeant Matt Ratner came from the antique revolver that he was carrying on him, but as I say, the police missed it when they searched him on the street. Sergeant Matt Ratner left behind his partner and his child, and at the age of 55, he was only 3 months away from retirement. Of the 2 further shots that de Zoysa then fired, one got him himself in the neck and caused brain damage, as a result of which he's now in a wheelchair and can't communicate properly. Basically, he can't speak. When, at his sentencing hearing, he tried to use his physical disabilities as an argument for not being given a whole life order, the judge quite rightly pointed out that the man's physical disabilities are his own stupid fault.
On balance, I accept that you are likely to find prison more difficult than a neurotypical prisoner. I take that into account. Your injuries. After shooting Sergeant Matt Ratner twice, you fired 2 more shots. One hit the wall of the cell, mercifully missing the 2 officers who were bravely restraining you. The 4th hit you in the neck. This resulted in bleeding and a blood clot, which travelled to your brain and has caused some damage. It has also resulted in physical problems. It means you now use a wheelchair, and you have real problems with your communication, often using a whiteboard to help you communicate. It is entirely due to your deliberate and voluntary actions that you have those injuries.
Zoysa got his whole life order in 2023, and then in 2025 his appeal against his whole life order was dismissed.
I don't know what happened. Alright, come to me.
Well, like Nurse Letby, this killer is arguably another baby murderer.
Have you armed yourself?
Yeah.
You have?
Have you stabbed yourself, mate?
I can see blood on your hands.
Yeah. Anywhere else?
Just my chest, 4 inches in with a bread knife.
Can we have a look?
And one on the stomach. I bled quite.
Right, do you want?
Yeah. Can we go down
No, just stay there.
I just don't want to be in front of them.
Alright, just around the corner.
Just walking wounded at the minute.
Alright, stand here. Stay here.
Right.
So
We told you, I know what's going to happen to you now, mate.
Well, I know it's going to happen when we go to prison, obviously, but again.
Why? What have you done? Have you done something to anyone else?
Yeah.
What have you done?
I've murdered 4 people.
Damien Bendall committed his horrendous acts under the influence of drugs. He murdered, first of all, his girlfriend, who was pregnant with his child. Then he murdered her 2 young children. And then he murdered the school friend of one of the children who was staying over. This all took place in the Derbyshire town of Killamarsh in September 2021. He also confessed to the rape of one of the children, a little girl. Bendall got his whole life order in 2022.
Down! Do not move, you understand? Sharp 2-4, stand by. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence. Do not mention any questions.
This murderer didn't kill any children, but firstly, don't think that makes him any nicer than either Damien Bendall or Lucy Letby, and secondly, children are very much involved in his murders. In November 2024, double murderer Marcus Osborne lost his appeal to have his whole life order overturned. Osborne killed his former girlfriend and her new partner in 2023 in the month of May in Huddersfield out of sexual jealousy. His ex-girlfriend, a lady called Katie Highton, who was 27, sustained all of 99 injuries in the attack from Osborne, while her new boyfriend, a guy called Mr. Harnett, was mutilated and left with 24 knife wounds. Osborne also raped another woman who he had held captive in the house. This woman, who we'll call V, testified in court that Osborne washed himself between killings because this ordeal took place over a number of hours, and that the man laughed and jeered at what he'd done, and he scrolled through Katie's social media accounts and played voice messages from her phone between her and Mr. Harnett, whose first name is actually Stephen. Some hours later, the man got a neighbour to come to the house to have a look at the dead bodies, and the neighbour testified that Osborne was literally proud of what he'd done. I said children are involved in this story. All the while that this ordeal was taking place, there were 4 children upstairs. When, in early 2024, Judge Christina Lambert gave Marcus Osborne his whole life order, she gave the impression that even that wasn't a good enough punishment for him.
This is a case of such exceptional seriousness that even a very long minimum term would not amount to just punishment. What you did that night was horrific.
In March 2024, when he got his whole life order, Osborne was 35, so hopefully he'll have decades and decades of absolute hell rotting in prison. As at October 2025, this is the UK's newest whole life order prisoner. Direece Roche, who was born in June 1994, committed his first murder at the age of 16 in 2011. It took place on New Year's Day in Manchester. He and his older brother Owen went round to the home of Adam Steele, who was having a New Year's party. They were in search of Owen's girlfriend. A row broke out, spilled onto the street, and for whatever reason, Roche stabbed Adam Steele to death. He got life with a minimum of 12 years, and when he was released in September 2023, he had earned himself an excellent prison record. He was seen as a model prisoner and a reformed character. 9 months later, though, he went and murdered his great uncle, Fintan McDwyer. On the 30th of June 2024, he went out late at night, climbed through a number of back gardens to get to the back garden of his uncle, got a ladder, climbed up to an upstairs window, got into the house and stabbed his great uncle to death with 77 stab wounds. Why did Roche do what he did to his own great uncle? He said that he only broke into his great uncle's home to steal the man's dog, but that his great uncle had caught him and then come at him with a knife. The jury didn't believe that for a second, because after all, Roche stabbed his uncle, as I say, 77 times. He got his whole life order on the 19th of September 2025. In October 2020, over a period of 7 days, Anthony Russell murdered 3 people. On the 23rd of October 2020, a lady called Julie Williams, 58, phoned West Midlands Police to report that her son, David Williams, 31, hadn't been seen since the 21st of October. On the 25th of October, West Midlands Police were called by Miss Williams' sister to report that Miss Williams herself, Julie Williams, was now also missing. Police officers forced their way into Miss Williams' house and found her dead on the living room floor. Having killed David Williams, who had been his friend over a disagreement or something, when the man's mother went to him and asked if he'd seen her son, Russell said no. He then offered to help the woman look for her son, only to kill her as well. Knowing that the police would soon come looking for him, the perpetrator scarpered from his hometown of Coventry in the West Midlands over to Leamington Spa, where he battered and robbed 3 people who I think were all elderly and left them for dead. Then he got chatting to a 31-year-old woman called Nicole McGregor, who at the time was 18 weeks pregnant and addicted to drugs. It was on the promise of drugs that Russell was able to lure Nicole to Parkland and then grape and murder her there. He then repeated the same performance of concerned friend that he had put on with the mother of his first victim, Nicole's boyfriend being the dupe of this second performance of his. The boyfriend not realising that the man helping him look for his girlfriend was the very person who had done away with her. Russell got his whole life order in 2022.
Right, start the same thing at the moment. For the main army defence, elementary questions, subsequently anything you do, same evidence. Anything you say now is evidential, alright?
I know he's on so it can't be like.
Brian Whitelock, who comes from Swansea in Wales, is another triple murderer. His first 2 victims were Nicky Morgan and Glenn Whitelock. Glenn was his own brother. He killed them in the course of a drink and drugs party over at the home of Nicky Morgan. When he got out, he then was befriended by a lady called Wendy Buckney. She was a 71-year-old lady. She loved her horses. She knew about Brian Whitelock's past, but she believed that everyone deserved a second chance. one day under the influence of drink and drugs again, just like in the case of his first 2 murders. He went over to Wendy Buckney's home, battered her, did something sexual against her, and then after he finished battering her to death with all kinds of things, including some shelving, he loaded a pile of furniture and things over her body and walked away. He got his whole life prison order in 2024. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.